Welcome, curious minds, history explorers, and fellow truth seekers, to Timeless Knowledge Discoveries. I'm your host, Noah Lobby, and I'm thrilled you're joining me today as we uncover wisdom from the past to help us navigate the present. Today, we're tackling a topic that feels incredibly modern, yet has roots stretching deep into history: the power of critical thinking in the age of misinformation. Just take a moment to think about how much information we encounter every single day. It floods in from our phones, our computers, TVs, conversations, headlines, social media posts, videos, memes. It's like standing under a waterfall of data. And while much of it is helpful, entertaining, or genuine, there's also a torrent of stuff that's, well, not quite right. Misinformation. It can be confusing, frustrating, and sometimes even harmful. We see startling claims, unbelievable stories, or facts that just don't add up. And it happens so fast. Before you know it, you might feel that urge to share, to react, to believe something that stirs your emotions. But how do we sort through it all? How do we find the reliable stepping stones across this rushing river of information? The key isn't to block out the river entirely. That's impossible and undesirable. The key is to learn how to swim, to build a mental compass, a set of skills that helps us discern truth from fiction. And guess what? These skills aren't new. History has been teaching us lessons about this for centuries. We tend to think of fake news as something unique to our current digital age. But if you look back through history, you'll find that misleading information, propaganda, rumors, and hoaxes have been around for as long as humans have been communicating. The methods change, but the challenge of figuring out who and what to trust is ancient. Imagine being a citizen in ancient Rome. How did you learn about the emperor or important events? Often, it was through public pronouncements, word of mouth, and maybe the coins in your hand. Roman emperors understood the power of symbols. They minted coins with their images, depicted alongside gods, victorious battle scenes, sometimes exaggerated, or symbols of prosperity and peace. These weren't just currency. They were powerful pieces of visual propaganda designed to shape public perception and project an image of strength and legitimacy, regardless of the actual political or economic situation. It was a form of engineered truth distributed widely. Fast forward to the 15th century and the invention of the printing press. This was a revolution. Suddenly, ideas could spread beyond handwritten copies and reach a much wider audience, much faster. This led to incredible advancements in knowledge, science, and literacy. But it also meant that not just truth, but also rumors, conspiracy theories, and deliberate lies could be mass-produced and distributed. Pamphlets full of accusations during the Reformation, sensationalized accounts of events. People had to start evaluating the source of printed material in a way they hadn't before. The speed and reach of information increased dramatically, creating new challenges for figuring out what was reliable. Sound familiar? It's like the early internet. But let's look at a specific, famous example of mass misinformation from the 20th century that highlights how easily we can be tricked, especially when emotions are involved. On October 30th, 1938, the night before Halloween, a young radio dramatist named Orson Welles and his Mercury Theatre on the air presented an adaptation of H.G. Wells' science fiction novel, The War of the Worlds. The broadcast was brilliantly done, mimicking the style of a real news program with interruptions of music and on-the-spot reporting of strange events happening in Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Despite repeated announcements that it was a fictional drama, many listeners who tuned in late or who weren't paying close attention believed they were hearing actual news reports of a Martian invasion. Panic erupted in some areas. People called police stations, fled their homes, and genuinely believed aliens were attacking. Why? Because the delivery felt real. It sounded like the news they trusted. People were already anxious about the growing crisis in Europe, This was just before World War II, and their existing fears made them more susceptible to believing a frightening story. The War of the Worlds broadcast, the Roman coins, the printing press pamphlets, these historical examples show us that the battle against misleading information isn't new. Humans have always had to figure out how to navigate information, evaluate sources, and resist believing things simply because they sound convincing or tap into our fears. Understanding this history helps us realize that the challenge we face today with social media and the internet isn't just a technological problem. It's a very human problem that requires developing a timeless human skill, critical thinking. So, let's define this vital skill. If it's not just being negative or cynical, what is critical thinking? Think of critical thinking as being the wise, careful gatekeeper of your own mind. It's the ability to identify the information being presented, analyze how it's being presented, evaluate its reliability, accuracy, and value, question assumptions and biases, synthesize different pieces of information to form a reasoned judgment. It's about being active, not passive, when you receive information. Instead of just absorbing everything like a sponge, a critical thinker is more like a sifter or, as I mentioned earlier, a detective or a scientist. A detective doesn't just listen to a suspect's statement and close the case. They look for evidence, check alibis, consider motives, and look for inconsistencies. They ask, who said this? How do they know? Is there evidence? Does it make sense? A scientist doesn't just read the results of an experiment and accept them blindly. They look at the methods used, the data collected, the conditions of the experiment. They ask, how was this tested? What is the data? Could something else explain these results? Can others repeat this experiment? Applying this to information online or in the news means asking similar questions. It's a process of mindful inquiry. And this is where your history skills actually give you a head start. When you study history, you learn to look at primary sources, eyewitness accounts, original documents, and understand their limitations and biases. Compare different historical interpretations, secondary sources, and figure out why historians might disagree. Consider the context in which something was created. When was this written? Who wrote it? Why? Look for evidence to support claims made about the past. These are the exact same skills you need to critically evaluate information today. You're already training your brain to be a historical detective. Now it's time to point that magnifying glass at the present. But even with these skills, it's not always easy in our modern world. Let's acknowledge the challenges. Our current information environment makes critical thinking harder than ever, even for those with the best intentions. First, there's the sheer volume and speed. As I mentioned, it's a fire hose. Our brains are simply not equipped to deeply analyze every single piece of information that hits us on social media, news feeds, etc. We often have only seconds to decide if something is worth our attention, and misinformation is often designed to grab that attention instantly with shocking headlines or compelling images. There's pressure to react quickly, to share before you even have time to think. Then there are the ways technology is designed. Algorithms on social media platforms often show us more of what we've already agreed with or engaged with. This creates echo chambers and filter bubbles. We end up primarily seeing information that confirms our existing beliefs, surrounded by people who think like us. This feels comfortable, but it limits our exposure to different perspectives and makes us less likely to question information that fits neatly into our existing worldview. When we do encounter something outside our bubble, our confirmation bias makes us likely to dismiss it quickly. Speaking of biases, our own cognitive biases play a huge role. Confirmation bias is just one. There's also availability bias, believing information that is easily available or comes to mind quickly, emotional bias, letting our feelings override logic, and many others. Misinformation creators are masters at exploiting these natural human tendencies. They craft stories that are emotionally charged, easily digestible, and tap directly into our existing fears, hopes, or prejudices. When a piece of information makes you instantly angry or validates something you already strongly believe, your critical thinking alarms should be ringing. It takes mental effort to pause, question, and verify. In a world designed for speed and emotional reaction, choosing that thoughtful pause is a conscious act of resistance. It's hard work, but it's work that is absolutely essential for navigating the modern world responsibly. Okay, so we know the challenge is real. But here's the empowering part. You already have the foundation for critical thinking, and you can build on it. Think of this section as assembling your personal toolkit for navigating information. These are actionable steps you can start practicing today. Here are 7 steps to power up your critical thinking. Step 1. Pause and process your reaction. This is the most important first step. When you see something online that makes you feel a strong emotion, shock, anger, fear, excitement, stop. Don't share immediately. Take a breath. Recognize the emotion. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Is this designed to make me feel this way? This pause gives your rational brain a chance to catch up. Step 2. Consider the source. Who is sharing this? Is it an individual, a well-known news organization, a political group, a company, a parody account? Look beyond the headline. Click through to the website. Read the About Us section. What is the source's reputation? Do they have a clear agenda or bias? Is it a source known for accuracy or for sensationalism? Step 3. Look for evidence. Does the claim provide any support? Does it link to studies? Quote experts? Show data? Does the evidence actually back up the claim being made? Be wary of claims that offer no support or link to questionable sources. Step 4. Find other reliable sources. Is this major claim being reported by other reputable news organizations or fact-checking sites? If a big event supposedly happened and only one obscure website is reporting it, that's a massive red flag. Look for multiple, independent confirmations from credible sources. Step 5. Check for bias in the source and in the information. Does the source clearly lean one way politically or ideologically? Is the language used highly charged or one-sided? Understanding the source's bias helps you interpret why they might be presenting information in a certain way. It doesn't automatically make it false, but it's context you need. Step 6. Beware of your own biases. This requires self-awareness. If a piece of information perfectly confirms something you already believe strongly, that's the time to be extra skeptical. Ask yourself, am I believing this simply because I want it to be true? Would I question this more if it challenged my beliefs? Actively seek out different perspectives and credible information that might challenge your views. It's how you refine your understanding. Step 7. Look for experts and data for complex topics. If the information is about science, health, climate, or other complex areas, who are the experts being quoted? What are their credentials? What do scientific consensus or reputable data sources say? A single person's anecdote or opinion is not the same as rigorous research or expert consensus. Let's add a fun historical twist related to putting information sources to the test. Did you know that in 1835, a newspaper called the New York Sun published a series of articles claiming that a famous astronomer had used a new, powerful telescope to discover life on the moon? The reports were incredibly detailed, describing forests, oceans, and strange animals like bison, goats, and even bat-like humanoids living on the lunar surface. The public was fascinated, and many people believed it. It was elaborate fiction, a complete hoax designed to increase newspaper sales. The evidence cited was entirely fabricated. It took time for the scientific community and other newspapers to debunk it, but it shows how compelling and popular fake information can be and the importance of questioning sensational claims, even those presented as factual reports. The Great Moon Hoax of 1835 is a perfect historical reminder to always consider the source and look for verification. Putting these steps into practice takes effort, absolutely. It's much easier to just scroll and react. But training your critical thinking skills is like training a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And in our world, it's a muscle you absolutely need to build and maintain. So, let's bring it all together. We live in an age where information spreads faster than ever, bringing both incredible opportunities and significant challenges from misinformation. We've seen that the problem of misleading information isn't new. History is full of examples, from Roman propaganda to the War of the Worlds panic and the Great Moon Hoax. But the crucial takeaway is this: critical thinking is your most powerful tool for navigating this complex landscape. It's not about being cynical, it's about being discerning. It's about pausing, questioning, evaluating sources, looking for evidence, recognizing bias, and being aware of your own tendencies. You already have the foundation for these skills, especially if you enjoy learning about history and asking questions about the past. Now, take those detective skills, that historical perspective, and apply them to the information you encounter every single day. The power to discern truth, to make informed decisions, to avoid being manipulated by misinformation, that power is within you. It just requires practice, curiosity, and a commitment to being a thoughtful, active participant in the information age. Be a history buff of the present, applying timeless knowledge to the challenges of today. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Timeless Knowledge Discoveries. I hope this discussion has given you some valuable tools and inspiration. If you found this episode helpful and you want to build your critical thinking skills with insights from history and fun facts, please show your support. Like this video right now, subscribe to Timeless Knowledge Discoveries for more episodes like this, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future explorations of the past and present. What are your biggest challenges when it comes to spotting misinformation? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep thinking critically.